2024. We need to begin with the approval of a treasurer pro tempore. Do I have a nomination, a motion, whatever?
You don't want to do it today? If you don't want to do it.
This year I will do treasurer pro.
I was like, don't look down here.
Okay.
I thought you liked doing it.
So Stephanie, is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion to nominate Will.
Okay, and Ms. Bryant seconded. Could we take a vote on that, please?
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bryant,
It's a little soft. I have mine as loud.
all right. So we're taking roll call for treasurer pro temp, for which I was nominated and seconded. Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
myself, I agree. Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes. Okay. Could we have the roll call, please?
Dr. Turner,
I'm here.
Ms. Anderson,
Present.
Ms. Bryant. I'm also here. Mr. Kilgore.
You're also.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Board members have had the opportunity to look at tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented to you?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Kilgore. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bryant.
Yes.
I also agree. Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes. Okay. We're beginning the meeting with a presentation from Anna Mary Thomas from the State Auditor's Office.
While he's setting things up and I can go through things, last year I presented to the board before we placed you in fiscal emergency over a forecast for 2024 and an analysis that we performed then. While you're in fiscal emergency, it's required from the Auditor State's Office to perform a financial forecast analysis over the 1 year of your 5 year. So as you'll see up there, the 3 years are presented again, the actual 22, 23, and 24. And then also, we're looking at only the forecasted year of 2025. So while you're in emergency, this will be done annually. As we go through things, you're good. That's fine.
Thank you.
So I come to you tonight to present a draft discussion of where the forecast lands. We're going to talk about some adjustments that we would like to see presented on the forecast. This is a look at what was presented, approved by the board, approved by the commission, and submitted to ODEW back in November. We did some testing in November and December. We had to do some updated testing in March because it was asked upon the board and the administration to look at other cuts or revenue sources for 25 and ongoing into the 5 years. Now again, we're only looking at 2025. Because of that, there were some adjustments that were done to the workbook, not the actual forecast. Those were presented to us and talked about from the administration standpoint, and also with your treasurer, Chuck Soul, at the time. So we had to go back and do some more testing and looking at some things in that review process. to get us to what we have in front of us tonight. So what I'm going to do is not only go over the adjustments that we're asking for 25, but in essence, some of the key assumptions that go into this forecast. And then also, there is a representation letter for you guys to sign. What that's going to do is we're going to talk about the adjustments, right? So I had a meeting on Friday with your administration, which include Superintendent Hawkins, some administrative staff, your interim treasurer, who's here virtually tonight, and then also one of your board members was in that meeting. So we talked about mainly the adjustments to that November forecast in that 2025 column. The key thing here is when we certify this at the end of it, we have not yet, that will be either your certified deficit or for surplus for 25. If it is a deficit, that is what you're allowed to go to the controlling board for another solvency assistance. So you can't go higher than what we certified for this forecast. So if you have questions as we go through, whether it's on the adjustments or the forecast in and of itself, please bring those up as we go through this. And then at the end, you will have a representation letter to sign. What's new this time, because you're in emergency, is the commission will also be presented the same information, and they will also have to sign it because they approved it as part of the process. So last time you weren't in yet, so I only had to have your guys' signatures. This time I have to have the board and the commission, as well as the superintendent. So that's a little bit of the difference that's going to happen for this time. So are we ready, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in front of you is a draft, and it's really hard to see.
Sorry, everyone. Sorry, everyone.
You're good. I went over most of my spiel, so I don't have any more.
There we go.
Well, we're not gonna call, so I gotta get found with that.
What happened?
Sorry, don't ask. We're back to absence.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I was like, oh no, can you move it so I can see? Is she still presenting?
No,
Oh, no,
I
we
stopped.
stopped. So you're good.
There we go.
Thank you.
Michael, if we minimize that screen, we'll be able to see the big document behind it, and she'll still be able to see us. He's like, sure. Okay, Michael, how do I go up and down? And all around?
Not, the right and left.
Ah!
Oh. No, it's not working.
And let's go back to side. For now.
There we go. Thank you, sorry. All right, I'll go on now. Okay, so last year we discussed there was an adjustment line on here, and I'll go over that briefly. If you remember last year, and I'll go down to the note, it'll help out. We had some adjustments to the actual period. A lot of that had to do with your certificates of participation. I talked about that extensively last time. It's kind of confusing, but here's the nitty-gritty of that adjustment line. So your certificates of participation are paid out of a debt service special cost center by itself, and those are supposed to be supported by the general fund transfers. Those general fund transfers did not occur in 22 and 23 for principal and interest, and we kind of talked about that. That was the only adjustment in 22. The payments were made out of Fund 2, Special Cost Center for COPS, but the transfer did not occur. So your bond levy retirement fund were really what was paying for that, even though they were in a different special cost center. With what we're showing you, those transfers were added to the adjustment line, and then also in 2023, the transfers for principal and interest did not occur as well. Now, your principal was paid out of Fund 4, which was $400,000, but the interest for that year was paid out of Fund 2, out of that special cost center. That's important when I go to some other stuff. At the end of the year, there were advances that were done to the bond retirement fund and many other funds. There's over $3 million worth of advances that year. What it was doing was covering negatives of not just funds, but special cost centers that were negative. One being that special cost center for Fund 2. Now, that doesn't add up to those first two lines on there for 22 and 23 because Fund 4 paid $400,000 worth of stuff. In fiscal year 2024, there was a transfer to take care of that. So there was no advance into Fund 4 because there was no negative funds in there. That's why that does not match. Those advances, though, were paid back in the early part of 24. And I talked about that last year. So those come back off. So they fixed the deficit for like a hot minute, a month, and then they reversed off. The advances are only supposed to go and then come back, so they made the payment like they're supposed to. Also in 23, property tax allocation is really your homestead and rollback. So homestead and rollback follows your property taxes. You have three funds that get property tax revenues. General fund being the biggest. You also have the debt service fund for your bond retirement levy that you have. And then you also have Fund 34, which is your classroom facilities and maintenance. That entire amount was posted to the general fund and should have had portions go to Fund 2 and Fund 034. That's the $168,000 adjustment you see in 2023. Now, we come into 24. We had mentioned this last time. The transfers that need to occur for certificates of participations happened. So that was fixed in 24. So that adjustment we saw was affecting you negatively, then it was fixed. Going forward, you're doing your transfers, they're in the forecast for the COPS principal and interest. We already talked about the advances, they sent those back, that's why you see the plus minus between the 2 years. Property tax allocation, that homestead and rollback, there was a fix in 24. However, it was done by $1,000 too much. So that is a fix that we're going to do on 25, and that's something I'll be getting to your interim treasurer within the next week or two to do that. So it's fixed before the end of the year. But then after that, we shouldn't see anything new in that adjustment line when we come back to do 26 and 27 or however many we have to do. Okay, so that's the old stuff. Questions on that? Okay. So, we'll go back. All right. The first part of here shows you the revenues for the first 3 years and then also into 2025. We do not have any adjustments in property taxes, but the biggest thing that I'll point out, you see a big jump in 24 and a bigger jump in 25 on the amounts there. You had a reappraisal year in this county for 2024 calendar year. You only saw half of that in 24 fiscal year. You see the whole year and what that did for your revenue growth in 2025. You saw a whole fiscal year of the property taxes with the reappraisal come through. That's why you see the increase. Again, no adjustments are being asked for that. I'm just saying that's the biggest reason why you see that if you looked at all 4 years. Okay, and unrestricted and restricted grants and aid. The biggest portion of this comes from foundation monies, and we're going to break it down for you. In unrestricted grants and aid, if you would pull a foundation settlement off of the ODEW's website, it'll give you what's supposed to be in restricted as revenue sources and restricted. Unrestricted, they have a coding of what's 3,110. Okay, so that's your base, that's special needs, there's some transportation that you're going to receive in those monies, okay? When you guys were working on this forecast, there was a lot of discussions leading up to it in the board meetings, especially at the commission meetings, because I'm at those meetings. Where was your ADM? What was going on with that? And there was a lot of movement in October and analyses that were done, because what was being shown in foundation and what you were getting in foundation seemed really low to those here at the district. So there was a concerted effort to look at, we'll call them butts and seats, and making sure that EMIS was providing the correct information for your average daily membership, which really goes to calculating a lot of the foundation, okay? At that time, I think that they were still up and down on where that ADM really was, even in November. I will tell you this here and the next line have changed drastically, even from November to the end of March. My office, we've looked at what occurred, especially in that second settlement in March. You saw a big change in that, even from the first one in March. A lot of reasons for that. The biggest one in unrestricted is your ADM, okay? Now, if you look on here, 23 was at 22 million. 24 was really at 23.8 million. And then it's dropping in 25. Now, we do have an adjustment in this area. What was projected in November was 22.45 million. So we have up there 22.13. That would be an adjustment of around 316,000. I talked to the administration on Friday. We talked about, I have better information. I can take what the foundation has, and it tells me what the annual amounts are. So looking at that and seeing what we should be going forward, that's where we land pretty much for foundation. The only exception to that is casino tax revenue monies in there. We have not received that yet. That's usually around $190,000, and that's what has been projecting around that in the last couple of years. That's projected to stay about the same. So I'm saying that 22,134,000, other than the 190,000 in casino tax, that's really matching back to what is unrestricted monies on your foundation settlements as of March. And I know that I found out Brock's going to be speaking to a lot of the EMIS stuff that leads into your foundation. So that's where we're saying that we need a $316,000 adjustment from the November 2025 number to April of today's number. Okay. And the restricted grants and aid, a lot of that is from foundation, that gifted and DPIA and things like that. The only piece that is unknown really at this time is catastrophic aid. You get catastrophic aid normally in June. That's usually been around $500,000 in the past. And in talks with the administration here, with the knowns that we know right now, it looks like you should get still another $500,000 this year. The big change here is actually going up. So in November, you projected 3.58 million. And if you look on there, it's at 4.3 million for 2025. Again, it's still lower than 24. What made the big increase? This one really did change a lot in March. There was some things, and he'll talk more about that, where you were showing at an 85% poverty for the district, and you're closer to 100%. When there's some things changed in EMIS, it flowed through to the foundation information and it changed your settlement. So you really saw an increase in revenues in that second settlement for March. So again, other than the catastrophic aid, I really can see what the foundation is projected for you in the restricted monies going out for the rest of the year. So that adjustment from what you originally had to now was around $742,000. So with those two, with a decrease and an increase in just restricted grants and aid and unrestricted, we're looking at around a $425,000 jump up in the revenues in total. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay. Property tax allocation that's on there, it's gonna follow property taxes, similarly. That's homestead and rollback, okay? When things are posted correctly and there's been some adjustments, that I've already talked about, it'll follow the trend of what property taxes is doing. All other revenues, that's all kinds of stuff. We really didn't see a huge jump in that. It's like $26,000. That's tuition, tip, and all kinds of stuff. We didn't do an adjustment for that either. The other big line I want to point out in 25 is your all other financing sources. I did have a conversation with your interim treasurer today about this line. This 1.7 million is really high compared to all the other years. What happened? Well, ESSER grant and funds were coming to a close. It was not going to be used all for the construction that was out here, where most of the leftover ESSER was doing that to the administration building. So that was going to leave some monies that needed to be used through the ESSER grant. And you had a timeline, like fast approaching within 25. You were allowed to use expenditures from prior years from the general fund to be covered by ESSER. So that was grant monies coming into the general fund to cover past expenses. That's what most of that 1.7 is, okay? That takes care of the revenue side of the world. Let's talk about expenditures. And again, these are the assumptions, just similar to what we had last year when we were doing the presentation. All right. Personal services, that's your very first expense line. The first graph in here really is where your staffing levels were from 22, 23, 24 at the end of June. And then what's presented for 2025 is really what is at the end of February. And then this aligns up to what you're presenting with an adjusted number for personnel for the forecast for 25. I wanted to point out for the general fund in total, you went from 428 in 2024 to 288 in 2025. There was RIFs that were done. We've had a lot of movements in staff throughout the year. We've had people leave, some of them replaced, some not replaced, based upon the needs of the district. This has been an up and down area, because we also brought back in that the treasurer was no longer a purchase service where you're contracting, that we now have an employee, so it's in personal services. We also had an EMS coordinator that was in purchase services and now being dealt with an employee in the district. That is a decline of 140 people, staff, between 24 to 25 in February. If we look down at the rest of the graph, you can also see in total with all funds, your personnel was at 505 in 24, and it's now down to 366. With that, you're going to see some huge changes in personal services. This is the breakdown here of what that line all entails. You have your certified, classified, supplementals, all of that. You can definitely see the changes that are occurring between 24 and 25 in this graph. And you went from 28 million for actuals of 24 with a new projection of 25 being 21.227. Okay, what happened from November to now to maybe need an adjustment? We already had the RIFs, they were done. We knew what that was entailing and what it cost the district, or savings and expenditures and so forth. You've had a lot of movement in personnel. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff going on that comes to the board meetings, comes to the commission. Again, some of those are being replaced, some are not, depending upon what the classroom sizes and other needs are within the district. So even from November on, we've seen a lot of movement in there. With that, we tried to look at where, you know, we had information and updated information up through February. So I have actuals through February, where they would have only had through October. My staff and I, we used an estimate on payrolls going forward. So you guys only do 2 a month. So we only have March through June to estimate when we're doing the work. We really looked to see what was going on in January, February, and March. I also had our staff look at personnel that changed, left, replaced from not only the board minutes but the commission minutes. We were trying to make sure when those people were paid out that we knew that in the salaries that were being paid in those paid periods, January, February, and March. You will see January and February decreasing, and you'll see some decrease in March based on the levels of staff. With that being said, we took an estimate using the last pay period in February for both certified and classified. It seemed like the most reasonable approach. We don't take by individual staff, which is what your workbook tries to do. We kind of look at, you know, the forecast in a different light to see if it's reasonable. So that's what we did in our testing. We also were supplied supplemental contracts from the district and who was still left to pay and what positions were to be paid. Also looking at, you know, originally, I don't think we had the whole part-time subs within the forecast. And you guys approved 10 to be, employed here. We're not quite even at 10, and so that's changed. I think you're at 6 or 7, depending on the day. That was all looked at, and that had changed even from November. You changed the bell system and how you're doing coverages and then how that's all being paid out. We took that all into account when we did the analytics. We have the retirements that have come in so far, when they need to be paid and what they need to be paid and for their leave balances and stuff. So we have all that information up through February and presented what we felt like it should be at $21.2 million. That is a $493,000 change from November to now. I did expect it to go down based on seeing people in and out and then some known factors. Again, we did put the treasurer position back in here for half a year based on when Chuck started, also within the benefits as well. So in looking at that and looking at your staffing levels, you definitely would expect to see a large decrease in your personal services just by the staffing levels that we just went over between the 2 years. And then looking at what we have better information right now up through February and estimating out from March to June. Any questions on that and how we got to that number? Any questions on should it be that low? Okay. Benefits is the next one. We don't have an adjustment to this, which seems weird because you usually see salaries and benefits go hand in hand. So this is a great opportunity to say, I have materiality level when we do a forecast, just like they do an audit. So if something is not at a material level, we have it as immaterial, of course. So here, your retirements really don't change. Why? Well, because you pay on an estimate, on foundation, it's a deduct, for the entire year. That is a set amount that you will pay. What we call kind of like a true up or making it good will happen in 26 for 25. So it's either you maybe paid in too much and you get money back, or you'll owe and have to pay more. We wouldn't deal with that until 26. So there's no change in that going out. We already know the known factor for that coming from foundation. The thing that really changed with the staffing levels and how personal services changed is really the insurance piece of that. And looking at that and what should be paid out for the rest of the year based on the levels that you have right now, it would need to be reduced, but it's immaterial. I have other immaterial adjustments we looked at. So what happens with those? Well, I don't throw them away. What I do is we do an aggregate. So we look at in total what all those immaterials will do. Will it make it a material adjustment? And if so, then we're going to come back and be like, okay, we got to fix something because we're materially out. Can't have it materially out. For this, And with all the other immaterial adjustments, it did not need to be adjusted, so I'm saying let's not adjust it for now. And that kind of gives some wiggle room within that certification amount as well. So with that, it's still staying at the $7.8 million. Okay? Now we get into fun work. When we're doing work with the forecast, we have a lot of known factors. I will say other revenues is kind of an unknown area, and we have to really drill down into analytics and what's going on and what they get. When we get into what we call 4 through 9, but it's really 400 objects, 500 objects, 600, 800. The first one is purchase services. We do tons of analytical work. We're looking at your past history, what's going on now. We drill down to the months. What makes it a little difficult is, we talked about this last year, there's been some unpaid bills here. So there's been holding of bills. There were some from 24 into 25. We had some in 24 that were paid in different months, so you wouldn't see a normal 12-month, every month payment for some things. That's even occurred in 25. So we did get unpaid bills information. We tried to make sure that was in our analytics, looking at information of historical period, and then also your actual information through February. What have you actually spent? What do you expect to do for the rest of the year? This was an area, when it was updated in February, they thought that there were some cost savings here for some different reasons. We knew transportation would be one of those. And you can see on here, it might be on there. Pupil transportation, there you go. It definitely went down from last year. Now, I will say on a base level, you would not expect that. Peterman's contract is for 5 years and goes through 2027. You have a rate increase every year. So right off the bat, I would expect it to increase. First of all, you reduce two bus routes, and then you also have fewer stops, so that's decreasing that cost. Okay, but the big driver is the cost that you have for other things that you have to transport that are mandatory. So the cost that you had for outside services, or even Peterman for extra services for that, is really decreased because of the metropolitan transportation that you've done, bus passes, okay? That's going to change this year. It's really seeing a savings. I don't think we knew what that total savings would be in November, or if it was built in per se, but we can see that savings now happening for your district. That's been a huge thing for you guys. The other area, property services are down, and some professional technical services. Okay, some of the things that occurred since November have an adjustment here. You're no longer servicing one of your students that aged out, so you don't have a full cost for them for the entire year. You have it for a half year. That was some savings. Shared Services Alliance was in here for the whole year. That was your treasurer group, as I call them. They ceased services at the end of November, so we could take those expenditures out that were projected for the full year. That occurred, and then those are the biggest things that caused the adjustment. So the adjustment asked for here is around $257,000 from what November's was. So the overall cost would be $16.1 million versus $16.4 million. And, your other thing was your EMIS coordinator's not getting paid out of here anymore. The last payment has been done, well, will be done, and then they won't be paid throughout the year. Okay. Supplies and materials. This was actually not an area that was talked about for an update in the February stuff, but when we were doing analytics, I made them do all of those 400 objects, 500 objects, and so forth. And looking at where you were at the end of February and estimating out, I would tell you the biggest thing that is causing the adjustment here, and we talked about this in the Friday meeting, is your 519 object, which is other supplies. Last couple of years, that's been around $350-some thousand. This year, at the end of February, you'd only spent $42,000. So we said, what are you expecting to do? There's not a lot of purchase orders out there in that one. It's in that personal supplies line. There's other stuff in there. So based upon our conversation on Friday, that there's not a need, and we're still building in textbooks, which is on that second line for your curriculum needs. That is all built in there. And then also, where you have the monies that came from House Bill 33 for literacy, those expenditures are built in for 25. But under the 519 object, it's just not as big as it was last year, and we're looking at a potential adjustment there for $269,000. This was my area that I really needed feedback from the district in that regard. I know what we were seeing, what we thought could happen for the end of the year, but you guys really know what is the need of the school district. And based on those conversations on Friday, unless something's changed, we feel that this number can be reduced. And you'll see there's a huge decrease from one year to the next for supplies and materials there. Most of the other stuff, there's no adjustments that are being pointed out. I'll go back up to the forecast. The biggest change for this year is you'll see the solvency assistant payback. What is shown in here is what the requirement is, which is the 2-year payback. So you are supposed to pay back this year, $5.379 million of the 10.8-ish that you borrowed. Well, it's not really borrowed. An advance of monies last year. Right now, that's the known that you have to do. I know there's been talks about a 10-year payback. That's not been approved yet, and until that's approved, I can't show it into this certification. So right now, that's with the $5.3 million solvency. That, if you agree to the adjustments we went over, that would put your deficit at $4.89 million. That would be the amount for the potential certification that my office would come out with that you could go to solvency with. That is quite different from the $6.3 million that was forecasted in November. At least this time I told you it's decreased, whereas last year when I came, I took it from 7 to 10.9. So I definitely have made some improvements from that November prediction. I know that's a lot of information. From my meeting that we had on Friday, I think we felt comfortable with those that were in attendance with the adjustments that were proposed. I did talk to your interim treasurer today about a few things, and we discussed those. She can speak to anything that you would want to on that, just if she wants to. But that's what we're proposing. That's what we're asking for the representation letter to be signed, approving the adjustments and what's being presented as the forecast now. I will want to say thank you to your entire staff that we work with. We come in and ask a lot of questions, and we ask for a lot of stuff, but they were willing to work through some things, and that's even with juggling things that were happening here that were unexpected in the administration office, treasurer's office and stuff. So I truly do appreciate that from everybody that worked with my staff. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is the minutes from our March 17th regular meeting and our April 7th special meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bryant, I abstain. Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes. All right, next we need to go into an executive session. This would be an executive session To consider one or more of the following items with respect to a public employee or official: appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation, and also a conference with our legal counsel for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. Do I have a motion? Hang on just a second, let me, forgot to check the box. Actually, I don't know what that is. Okay, sorry. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Kilgore. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant? I say yes. Mr. Kilgore?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes. Okay, so we are going into executive session for the above-mentioned reasons. And where's my thing saying what time? There it is. Going into executive session at 6:42. So we will be back. at special orders. Mount Healthy Teachers Association, nothing. We have a presentation, Dr. Sarah Wilson and Ms. Shayna Berg.
Okay, good evening. I passed out to you some information regarding transportation, and I just wanted to give you an update of where we are in the process with working with Peterman to update our transportation contract to get to the state minimums that was directed by the commission. So first, just a reminder, state minimums means that students within 2 miles of their building of attendance do not receive transportation. So only students living 2 miles or above receive transportation to school. It also means no busing for high school. So we're only required to bus K through 8 by law, not 9 through 12. So going to state minimums will really drastically reduce the number of students that we're transporting each day. Peterman, in their contract, had a clause that if the number of bus routes fell below 21 in any given year, we would have to renegotiate the contract. And that's what we're working through right now. So what we have so far is on the one side, the longer side, these are the daily price rates for the buses. And this had to be created because our current contract only went down to 21. So they added all of the numbers down to 8 routes. And then on the other side, and those are daily prices, like I said, on the other side, it shows the annual cost if we have that particular number of routes, and then the annual savings. So our current goal, based on the previous transportation analysis, is to get the number of regular education buses down to 8. That is a tall order. So I'm working closely with Peterman to try to figure out ways to make that happen. And there are a lot of different factors and variables that have to be considered. So that's kind of where we're at right now, is looking at how to get those general ed routes down to 8. Our special education routes will not change. Special ed transportation kind of is what it is. It's based on the number of students that need it. Right now, we have 5 buses that are special education buses. And then we will be looking at the numbers of how many students will need to be transported based on some of the potential changes with ELC. So right now, I think the minimum that we would be at would be probably 13 buses if we can get it down to 8 general education buses, so you can see what the annual anticipated savings is there. And then once Peterman comes back with their routing proposal, we'll be able to determine exactly how many students we're transporting. And then we'll need to calculate the cost of lost revenue due to lower ridership. So once we have all that, we'll come back probably in June with the final proposal for Peterman. Does anyone have any questions about any of that information?
What about the van? We use as vans to transport. Do they supply the drivers for that, Peterman?
They do.
Is that included in this?
It's included in the total. It's not included in the routes.
Okay.
So, but it wouldn't go above that particular number. So if you see on the van routes, that's a per day cost for the van routes. And we have been trying to utilize vans more than outside vendors. So we've been trying to utilize those district-owned vans, which end up being a lot more cost-effective than some of our other transportation vendors like Medicare, UTS, EverDriven.
One thing I want to note, I want to thank Sarah first for all of her work on this. It has been a lot of work to talk with Peterman about changing the contract, and I appreciate Peterman for being open to really talk with us because they have a contract that goes several more years that they could hold us to. When the former treasurers group did their analysis that was put into our plan back in October, we found out, we kept asking about the analysis and we could not get information. Sarah provided contacts for them. We found out that they put in the 1.3 million based on what they considered a state average. They did not look at our specific numbers in that. So the fact that Sarah has even come close to getting it to that estimated amount is amazing. But it has been a big ask. And so that is something I think we need to, just acknowledge that, we're working very hard to get that to where it needs to be, and that a lot of our students being transported will not really be our students in the buildings. They will be students who are going to parochial schools and charter schools in this area. And so we'll have more information as we come. Once the school year closes, Peterman likes to wait until basically the school year ends. We roll over who is planning to come next year, and then they'll do their final analysis. Sarah, did you have any other?
Nope. If there are any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. All right.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
And I'm actually going to stand up front so that we can take a look at the screen. I'm going to be talking about hiring and salary implications during fiscal emergency. So when you think about fiscal emergency, you're typically thinking, how can we save money? So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about how we need to spend money to actually save money. All right, so what we have here are baseline salaries for local area school districts. So what that means is your year one teachers' starting salaries. So the way districts pay, you go from like bachelor's 15, bachelor's 30, master's, and so on. But this is all the way across to first year teacher salary. The schools in yellow, what they mean is they haven't finished negotiations, or maybe they're not starting negotiations yet. The districts in green, they have confirmed those salaries for next year. So these are definitely correct. The ones in yellow won't go down, but they could go up. All right, so when we take a look at these, Mount Healthy is now at the very bottom of the local area schools. So we have North College Hill, which is directly besides us. Then we have Middletown, which is a very similar school district to us, Northwest, Winton Woods, Hamilton, Fairfield, CPS, and Finneytown. So what you're seeing are we are the very lowest. What does that mean for us? So Tish and myself have made 7 offers to brand new teachers. Every single one of them has declined. Why? We're in a teacher shortage. Now, sometimes we get teachers that are on teach grants that are required to teach in low-income school districts. But if you have the opportunity to teach for us at 43 or go to Hamilton and make $46,900, you're going to choose to go to Hamilton. So if we increased that base salary, we would actually end up saving some money by doing that, because we'd get those year one teachers. Right now, we aren't getting those year one teachers. So when you compared on the last page, the base salary is 4.6% lower than the next lowest neighboring district. So when you looked at us and you looked at North College Hill's lowest base salary, there was a 4.6% difference. When you looked at Mount Healthy and you looked at Finneytown, the highest paying area school district, they are 16.2%. We're 16.2% lower. We're teaching the same clientele, yet
And
at
Shayna,
much
and
lower
that's
salaries.
before their negotiations, correct?
Correct, both districts prior to negotiations. Certified staff. So ORC language says that a teacher has to be granted their first 10 years of service. So what that means is, Julie, how many years have you been teaching? She's been teaching 24. If she left the district now, a district would only have to pay her for 10 years, okay? We have 52% of our staff with 10 years or less of service. What that means is 52% of our staff could leave and get a raise. So here are some facts from the Learning Policy Institute. There is a financial impact to the district every time there's a teacher turnover. Trainings that need to occur, interviewing, hiring processes, technology. So their estimates are this. For a small school district such as ours, under 10,000 students, $11,860 it costs per staff member. What else does it cost though? It costs student achievement, it costs valuable staff time, and investments in those new teachers. You're not going to see those for a few years when you do trainings. Now, we estimated our own cost of teacher turnover. We've been very, very resourceful. And we got that 11,800 number down to about $8,175.28 exactly. Last year, after we riffed, we had 88 certified staff members that resigned, that chose to resign. So when you take that cost, this is what it costs the district to replace them. This year, we currently have 186 certified staff. 97 of them are, remember, at that 10 years or less and could leave. At that same financial impact cost, we're looking at $793,000. So where are we sitting now? Here are our current salaries by employee classification. This is where we would be if we gave all of our current staff a step, which is still way behind everyone else, but just saying, hey, hang in there with us. We would be at this. If we did new salaries with a step and a 1% raise, we would go to this amount. And then this just calculates the cost difference with the step. So if we just did the step, it would cost the district this. If we did the step and the 1%, it would save the district this amount. So my short-term recommendations here. We know that if we lost 52% of our teachers, it would cost us this. This is what a step and a raise would cost. Really saving the district this amount of money. So providing a step raise, maybe providing a 1% raise, but long-term recommendations, I know right now nothing is written into the 5-year forecast for a step or a raise. We cannot continue with that, so we definitely need to figure out a way to get that built in, as well as developing some type of plans for salaries to be competitive with our neighboring districts. Is there anyone that has questions about any of the information?
And Shana, I think it's also important to point out, we may have some 1-year, 2-year teachers that leave that we have to replace with much more expensive teachers because we have to find teachers for our classroom. So we might lose someone who's at step 2 and we have to replace them with a step 8 person. And if that happens, we're losing even more money, not to mention the culture. And, I think the biggest, one thing Shana mentioned was that continuing of student achievement. When you have your teachers turning over all the time, it takes a while. It's a new job. They have to learn the culture. They have to learn about the people they're working with. It takes a little while for them to get into their routine and to really start making that positive impact that our veteran teachers make every day.
No questions?
Thank you, Shana.
All right. Announcements, I don't believe we have any. Public input?
No?
For those members of the audience who do not wish to stay for the business portion of the meeting, now is the appropriate time for you to leave if you'd care to. Reports, Great Oaks Board report, Mr. Carter.
No, that's.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I knew that.
I didn't bring you guys copies this morning, I apologize. But our Great Oaks Board meeting was on April 9th, last week. President and CEO Harry Snyder reported a 95.5% retention rate across the 4 campuses at the end of the third quarter, which exceeds the 2025 goal. Most of the campus CTE programs are already at capacity for incoming juniors next fall, and 55 programs across the 4 campuses out of 85 total programs have wait lists as of April 9th. Only 10 programs are remaining, with 4 or 5 more open slots next fall. Also, Great Oaks recently received the Ohio Auditor of State Award with distinction for the 2025 fiscal year. Less than 5% of entities throughout the state received this award. That's all the notable happenings at the last board meeting.
Thank you. Legislative liaison report, Mr. Carter.
Okay. So the legislative report for April 14th, the Ohio legislature's recent passage of the biennial state budget introduced significant and controversial changes to the public education funding with potential long-term impacts on school districts across the state. So one, the partial implementation of the Fair School Funding Plan. The budget increases K through 12 school funding by $226 million over current levels. However, that falls short of the $666 million needed to fully implement the bipartisan Fair School Funding Plan established in 2021. And adjusted for inflation and updated data, it is estimated that the full implementation will require $800 million. And so critics argue that the current budget represents one of the lowest state shares in Ohio's history, potentially exacerbating funding disparities among school districts. Number two, expansion of private school vouchers and education savings accounts. So the budget allocates additional funds to expand private school voucher programs and introduces $35 million for education savings accounts, enabling families to use public funds for private education expenses, including homeschooling. Enrollment in voucher programs has surged, with the state projected to spend $475.4 million for approximately 88,000 students in the current year. So, of course, public school leaders are expressing concern that this expansion diverts essential funds from public schools, particularly those in high poverty areas, and may lead to cuts in programs and staff. Number three, limitations on school district financial reserves. A provision in the budget restricts school districts from carrying more than 30% of the previous year's operating expenses into the next fiscal year. Any excess reserves must be returned to the local property taxpayers. And this is to prevent school districts from accumulating large financial reserves, but has raised concerns about potential impacts on financial planning and stability. So additional legislative measures affecting education. Beyond budgetary changes, several legislative proposals are poised to influence Ohio's education landscape. Senate Bill 109 proposes providing free breakfast and lunch to all students. Senate Bill 113 and House Bill 155 seek to ban diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in schools, better known as DEI. Senate Bill 127 introduces automatic closure or intervention for low-performing schools. House Bill 190 requires parental permission for school staff to use a student's preferred name. And House Bill 96 reduces public school funding while increasing public funding for private education. So these measures reflect a broader shift in Ohio's education policy, emphasizing school choice and fiscal conservatism while raising concerns about equity and the future of public education in the state. That's my report.
Thank you. And a depressing report it was. Okay.
A little bit up.
Now we are ready for the report of the treasurer. Is Ms. Griscom joining us? Oh.
Hi, I unmuted myself now. I'm sorry about that. I don't have a lot for you. I wish I did. This is my 4th day. But I want to thank you for entrusting me to try to help you and work out, try to work out the finances here. I've been in touch with the commission. I've been in touch with ODEW. I've been in touch, of course, a lot with Valerie. I am really trying to get a hold of exactly where we are, and that takes a little bit of doing. I'm retired. I was a treasurer, though, for 15 years in my career, and I worked at ITCs for the other 15 doing state software support, and I'm still doing that part-time. But I was at one district for 10 years, a whole decade as their treasurer. So I'm relearning, I know what I'm doing in a lot of the grants and the different things with the different funds. I understand what's going on. I've already been able to unravel a few things. You have I know you have just a couple reports that came out of our office. If I had had a couple more days, you may have had some more reports, a little more information. Some good news is that I have been in touch with the Hamilton County Auditor's Office, and our settlement, our real estate settlement, which is considered the first half of 25, but it is the second time we get it in the fiscal year. We should have that settlement, they think, possibly by the end of this week, like this Friday. I am anticipating that to be another $4.8 million. That's what I'm anticipating based on what was projected on both the forecast and in the system as revenue estimates. And it looks about right to me, just based on history and everything. So I'm hopeful about that. If we can get that money, I would like to go through the payables because there are unpaid bills, as I'm sure everyone's aware. And then I'll meet with Sarah or whoever will prioritize what to pay first. Obviously, payroll, benefits, utilities are the first things we're paying. But we do have a lot of things we need to look at and prioritize. I'm working a lot with ODEW, the commission, trying to get a good forecast. You saw what was presented tonight. I'm aware of all those numbers, and I've been in touch with Anna Mary today, Friday, and I'll continue to be in touch with her. So I will be working on the rest of the forecast, and we use Forecast 5, which is good. I've used that software before, so I know the tool. So I will do the best that I can for you. My husband is also a retired treasurer, so we're both kind of in this thing here. So not that he's helping, but anyway, is there any questions for me? I'm sorry I don't have a bigger report, but I did not have enough time to really prepare anything more than that. I do want to say, though, before questions, everyone in the district has been wonderful, just absolutely wonderful. In the 4 days that I have been interacted with people, everyone is so helpful, and I get answers right away, and they're nice. It's just been really, really wonderful. So thank you.
And we are very thankful that you are working with us, Sandra. We are very appreciative of all of your work, and I think we all want the same goal. to move into solvency and get back on track. So thank you for everything you've done.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. Who's going to do the resolution? It's
Do you want me to read it?
either way.
Okay, so item B is to approve the resolution for board request for solvency assistance. As Anna Mary presented earlier, right now, it is projected that we would end the year almost 4.9 million, still in a deficit situation. We are all hoping that that is on if we're paying back the advance that we received from the state in 2 years. So we will have paid over $5 million this year. We have, as the board, we have to request it based on if that is our reality. So it is our hope that we will be able to get that changed to our payment spread out over 10 years. That first year would be this year. That means that we would be paid back over $4 million. So the amount that we would still need to reconcile, instead of being $4.89 million, lowers to $500,000. So that's if we're paying it back over 10 years. You know, if we were to get our advance changed to a grant, that would be better. The levy, all of those things would go into that. So with this, though, we have to do the resolution asking for solvency assistance based on the certification that was shared. And that is kind of worst case scenario. So the resolution that we're asking you to approve tonight says to approve a request for an advance from the State of Ohio School District Solvency Assistance Fund for the 24-25 school year. Whereas the Auditor of State declared Mount Healthy City School District to be in a state of fiscal emergency on April 5th, 2024, whereas the District Solvency Assistance Fund was created by Section 3316.20 of the Ohio Revised Code for the purpose of providing solvency assistance to school districts that have been declared under Division B of Section 3316.03 of the Revised Code to be in a state of fiscal emergency, whereas the Ohio Auditor of State will soon certify Mount Healthy City School District's current fiscal year 2025 forecast, which projects a deficit. Therefore, the Mount Healthy City School District Board of Education requests that the State of Ohio Department of Education and Workforce seek an advance from the School District Solvency Assistance Fund on its behalf in the amount equal to the forthcoming certified 2025 deficit.
Okay. Do I have a motion to issue this resolution?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Kilgore. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bryant? Yes. Mr. Carter? Yes. Mr. Kilgore?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Item C is the approval of the monthly financial reports. Those were sent to you and created by the Treasurer's Office.
Do I have a motion to accept the reports?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Myself? Yes. Mr. Kilgore?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Item D are the contracts, and under the contracts that are listed here, we will just highlight a few of those. You know, if it says GF, that means general fund, and that would be what we were estimating paying. I do want to just highlight number 1. That is SESI group that will be involved with the Early Learning Center. We will be talking about that in a little while. When we have students that cannot get the educational interventions that they need in our buildings, we do have to outplace those students. We do have 48 students that will be attending the Early Learning Center that are in-district students. Normally, each student costs $60,000 per student for those services. They have agreed, thanks to Dr. Wilson's negotiating skills, to give us a discount of $27,000 per student, which comes up to $1,296,000 in savings to the district for them to attend that program. There is a lease agreement that we'll talk about in a little while, but that is a major savings to the district, and we appreciate everything that Sarah did for that. You may wonder, why is that coming out of the general fund? Costs for special education services are required by law to come out of the general fund. So I just wanted to note that on number 1. Scarlet and Gray, we did bid out custodial services for this next school year. And so this would just be for 1 year. And there were 3 different companies that did bid. Number 2 and Scarlet and Gray Scarlet and Gray started a little bit higher, and there were some adjustments, so they ended up being just a little bit under number 2. And then the third company was less. However, the references were not what we wanted them to be. And so we are recommending that Scarlet and Gray's contract be approved for the next year. I will say, they have stuck with us when bills have not been paid in a timely fashion. And so we are appreciative of that. So that is who we are recommending for next year. The other contracts are, you can see E-rate. Remember, Michael talked about E-rate at a previous meeting. And the 5th one is City Gate Church. That is going to be our graduation venue. And so, are there any questions on any of those contracts?
Nope.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the contracts?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Carter. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bryant, myself, yes. Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item, E, is purchase orders that are over $5,000. You can take a minute and just look at the different contracts if anyone has questions. Most of them, especially the first 3, are linked with special education services. 4 is Duke Energy.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bryant, myself, yes. Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have report of the superintendent.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Hawkins.
So tonight, one of the things as we are kind of dealing with our different challenges, I do feel it's very important to highlight some of the work that is being done so that we can get a better understanding. The first person who is going to present us some informational items is Mr. Brock Kinzer.
All right, good evening. I'm Brock Kinzer. Normally I get to stand up and talk about state and federal programs, but we had some staff transition out, and Dr. Hawkins talked to me about facilitating some of the work that's done in EMIS. And it seemed like a really cool learning opportunity, and I've definitely learned a lot. We have a lot of opportunities, and my phrase for 2025 is downstream impact. What we found so far has just been amazing for us and our kids in the district. So to start us off, foundation payments, and this is probably something that everyone's already aware of, but just as a refresher, foundation payments occur twice a month, and they're an aggregation of the per pupil allocation or base cost, which the state base cost is $8,241.61, plus district factors related to our ADM, and then additional funding for special education, disadvantaged pupil impact aid, which is also DPIA or DIPA that I've learned, English learners, gifted students, career tech, and open enrollment. The last two we don't get a whole lot of support from. So it's a reflection of the data that a variety of people enter into DAZZLE, which is our student information service or system, and then that's transmitted into EMIS. So I had the opportunity to start looking at these foundation payments because they're related to EMIS, and some of the data on the March 1st payment appeared odd to me, and that's specifically this D2 data point, the economically disadvantaged percentage of 85.058738%. That just got me really confused, and I went to Dr. Hawkins and we talked about it for a little bit, and she said, yeah, dig into this a little bit more. And I went and talked with some colleagues at HCC and reached out to the State Office of Budget and School Funding to try and figure out what some of these issues are. So in the March 1 payment, our economically disadvantaged percentage is essentially this number here, the economically disadvantaged ADM, divided by this number. So that's how we get to 85%. The economically disadvantaged index is essentially this. Oh, what did it? Go ahead, Michael. I'm sorry. I think I pressed the button. I apologize. So this economically disadvantaged index is essentially our percentage divided by the state's economically disadvantaged percentage, which from month to month varies somewhere between 61 and 61.6%. That number is then squared to give you the economically disadvantaged impact index. So for March 1, this 85% economically disadvantaged meant that we received 68,221.72 for the first half of March. And that's based on data that was in the system on February 25th. According to that, then we'd have an annual DIPA funding amount of $1,744,000. Again, those numbers didn't seem right to me, so I went back and looked at the 10 previous payments. So you can see here, our enrollment's pretty steady, the economically disadvantaged ADM's pretty steady, et cetera. So these numbers, a little bit of variation, but we're still looking at 72% and 1.814 million. But I'm still saying this 85.683 is not possibly correct. So would you go ahead to the next slide, Mr. Burdett? Oh, I have the clicker. You're just doing the. So, and I know that this is a little blurry, but this is the downstream effect. So each student in our district has a profile, a student profile in Dazzle. And you can see it's general, you can't see, but it's general, additional, custom, private, FS standing, FS attendance, FD attributes, FN attributes, FN graduate, and transportation. So there's all these data points that go into making up a student's profile. So when I work with Sarah on special education funding, there's the FN attributes outline what type of, what category a student's disability falls into, and we get different funding based upon those different categories. But what I found is, with that 85% number, is this disadvantagement column here, if it's linked as not applicable, then kids are showing up as not economically disadvantaged. This is the default setting for our student information system. So either a student rolls over from one year to the next as economically disadvantaged, or if they're a new student, you have to go in and figure out in what form or fashion are they qualifying as economically disadvantaged. So, for the most part, students can qualify under 3 categories. But the 4th category, which we have the benefit of, is economically disadvantaged CEP, where students don't meet one of the conditions. Because every student in the district receives free breakfast and free lunch through the CEP program, we don't get a whole lot of free and reduced price meal forms returned. But those students still count as economically disadvantaged. The problem was, as students were enrolling, there wasn't the work being done in the background to go to this tab and do the drop down to make sure that they're identified as economically disadvantaged. So what I found out was there were approximately 720, not ready to go to that. There are approximately 720 students in the district between August 14th and the beginning of March who, some of them were still enrolled with us and some of them had been here for 3 weeks and left. But there were 720 students who did not have a disadvantagement turned on. That's that 15% ADM, okay? 216 of those kids enrolled July 1st, July 15th, August 14th, August 15th, our first couple days of school. So I was able to bulk upload economic disadvantagement for those 216 kids. The other 504 had to be manually updated. So going into each kid, going here, doing the drop down on repeat. Okay? And it sounds awful. It wasn't fun, but I made my spreadsheet and put it by month and said, okay, I'm going to get September done in the next hour, and then I'm going to do something else. Then I'm going to get October done. So I made a system that made it manageable, because when I first saw that number, I thought, oh boy, this is not going to be easy. So again, here's our average from October, the second October pay through the first March pay. and the March 1st pay, where you see these numbers that were depicted on the previous screen. The second March pay reflects those kids that I was able to bulk upload, those 216 kids. That moved our economic disadvantage from 85.058 to 89.71. That increased our bi-monthly payment from an average of 72 between October and March. The first March pay was 68,000. The second March pay became 112,000. So a difference of $44,000. You can also see here it changed our projection of annual DIPA funding from 1.74 to 2.043, approximately $300,000. I was feeling pretty good about that. And then I remembered that that only represents the kids that I bulk uploaded, because that data was collected on March 10th. Obviously, manually entering 504 students took a minute. But our April 1st payment that came through on, our April number 1 payment, I should say, that came through early last week, late the week prior, represents us getting to 98.66% economically disadvantaged. So here's our ADM. You can see the numbers are right around 25, 30. So our enrollment hasn't really changed, but our economically disadvantaged has gone from 2156, 2160 to 2502. That makes this number go up. That makes this economically disadvantaged number go up, and that made this number explode. So we went from 72,000 as a 10-pay average, 68,000 for the first payment in March, 112,000 for the second payment in March, and $444,912.04 for the first payment in April. That represents not just the money that we got for that payment, but also the state back paid us for the kids that had been enrolled with us and we hadn't received that money for over the course of the year. So that leads us to this number here, our annual projected number. So in March, it was 1.74 million. The average over a 10 pay period was 1.8, and now we're at 2.708. So that's an increase of about 49.25%. So we can call it 50% just for round numbers. So that 49.25%, close to $900,000. I think the number's 894, right in that area. Okay. So again, moving forward, our projected bi-monthly payment will be somewhere between $112,000 and $116,000. I don't have a degree in economics or finance or accounting, but I know how to make formulas in Excel. So I feel really comfortable, obviously, putting this number out here for public consumption. I've had a couple meetings with some folks, again, at school funding and budgeting at DEW. So this is about what that number will be moving forward over the next 5 pays. We have the second April payment, 2 May payments, 2 June payments. And this was the amount that we were able to recover from, obviously, throughout the year. And I've sourced all these slides if anybody wants to go in and take a look. It's a public-facing report. Does anybody have any questions?
I just want to thank Brock. I think that does deserve a big round of applause. Anna Mary referenced this when she said that there was a significant change in our foundation payment. And she referenced back, if you remember, in October, where we spent quite a lot of time. I'm like, this is not right. Why are we not getting paid what we need to be paid? And Brock found where that issue was, and it's resulted in the district getting almost $1 million right at it, more this year. So we very much appreciate Brock's work on this. And I have to say, we have several district office people here tonight. I would put them against any team in the city. You know, they are really here to support students, to keep on fighting and digging and seeing what they can do to help. And this is $1 million that we would not have had. You know, originally they said we would have to borrow 6.5 from the state, and now it's down to 4.9. And a lot of that is due to the work that Brock did. So we're very appreciative of that. Thank you, Brock.
Thank you.
Now Jana has some information that she would like to share. Part of our board meetings is also helping the board and the commission understand the day-to-day challenges of the different departments. And so many times we reference mandates. Jana deals with a lot of them. So Jana's going to share with the board and then the commission things specific to teaching and learning.
So I feel like mine is a little more self-serving, I feel, than what everybody else has presented tonight. But I also know that the work that my department does affects every student in this district. And so later today, you're going to get a resignation from somebody else on my team. And what has happened to my team in the past year is every time there's a resignation, that has not been replaced. So I just kind of want to talk to you about that a little bit because we're getting pretty bare-boned in my department. So in '24, we had 14 people that worked with my department, plus one support person who wasn't in my department but did a lot of work for us. Of those 14, 6 of them were IT people because technology fell up under teaching and learning when a different position went away, and we assumed that. The people that are highlighted in yellow are the people that resigned or, were let go, were riffed, that did not get replaced. So the elementary director, my lead IT person who was a district employee, then Vincent, our kind of contracted service, had one lead, three techs, and then a director that worked with me. We had a truancy attendance officer. I had Jen Danner, who was our CLSD grant manager, and then the executive director of data and performance pulled a lot of data from my team. So then this year, in FY25, we have 7 people that work with my team. 3 of those are IT. So it's me, it's my secondary director, my EL coordinator, and Mr. Burdette, plus then the tech team. And I put blue here that Michael has taken on a lot of our PR person that has not been replaced. So that blue isn't even counted in that total. So really my department has absorbed 7 positions either totally or partially. My secondary director is the one that is going to be resigning, not because she doesn't love the district, she just got an opportunity that she can't turn down. So I think it's important to say that teaching and learning has changed a lot through the years, even since I've been in the teaching and learning department, which is I think about 8 or 9 years. It's kind of just gone from, getting curriculum, getting books, doing pilots, to just a lot of mandates from the state. So 3rd grade reading guarantee, high dosage tutoring, high quality materials. So everything that's listed on the pages that has the blue link is ORC. It is required by law. We have to do it. It's a lot of compliance that you have to turn in, reports that you have to fill out. All the new dyslexia laws that have come through in the last year. And then under each one of those, you can see what teaching and learning has to do with those things. One of the big things that is part of more of my assistant superintendent role is just all the compliance with plans that we have to have. Like, because we're a Title I school, we have to have a 3-year plan every 3 years. So devising that, creating that, working with the buildings, we fill out a big one needs and then build the plan from that. And that fell in this year as well. And then I would say that I have Jan Danner that worked with the CLSD grant last year. We did not have funds for the rollover to carry her this year, but then we also just applied for a new CLSD grant that will bring in $3 million to the district if we receive it. It is a competitive grant that my team would be over as well. So then on the next page, and I guess it's 2 pages, are just all the other responsibilities that teaching and learning does for the district, that if that director position is not replaced, those things will have to kind of be spread everywhere, because capacity-wise, if it's myself and an EL coordinator and Michael, we just can't do it all. So I think our buildings are at capacity, so to try and pass some of this off to principals or teachers is not realistic either. And I just see things already suffering because the elementary director is no longer here. So I have taken kind of the brunt of her work, and I know that I'm not providing for the buildings what they need. So I think I just wanted to put this out there to say, you know, I'm fairly certain what the commission is going to say about replacing this position, but I will fight because I think it's what's best for the buildings. I don't think it needs to be a director position. They used to be coordinators, so I think we could take it back to a coordinator. Could probably make it a K-12 for a while until we had more funds to divide it back out, but I think it needs to be something.
Thank you, Jana.
Is that something that we'll end up voting on, or does that just basically?
So I did ask about the replacement of this position, and what was expressed is what was expressed for everything, is that we have to resolve our deficit, and when our deficit is resolved, then we can consider adding those back. We did put forth, if you recall, a position for a district information officer to run our website and also do PR. That was tabled and never brought back. So until we get our deficit resolved, it's my understanding that any position that is not mandated by law will not be replaced. And once we do resolve our deficit, as we build up funds, then some of those positions can potentially be brought back if we can show how we will pay for it, in the same way as if we want a step increase, we will need to show, after we resolve our deficit, how are we going to pay for that. Okay. Information items. Our senior awards night will be on May 8th at the junior senior high at 6:30 p.m. It's always an exciting night where a lot of scholarships are given to our students. And so if you are free that night, please join in that celebration. Graduation will be held at City Gate Church right down the road. It will be May 21st at 7 p.m. So it will be different than last year. The venue is much smaller. Each student is allowed to have 4 tickets and potentially earn 1 more ticket based on attendance and grades and behavior, things like that. We will be live streaming the event at the high school, and so that is an overflow area that families will be able to go and watch the event at the high school or from their home, you know, with the live streaming. We do have a change order, owner contingency. That's where money is giving back. We're finishing up the project. That is $4,854.64. We received a few grants. One is the America Walks General Motors grant for $2,200 and a capacity grant for $1,201. And this will give us shelving and a pallet jack and a hand truck for the food pantry. So those are just a few things that came in this month. The next item, item B, is to approve the lease agreement. This is the lease agreement for the Early Learning Center. We referenced that earlier. The Early Learning Center will be moving to North Elementary for next school year. So this is the lease agreement for 5 years.
Do I have a motion to approve the lease agreement? Moved by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bryant. Mr. Carter, aye. Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item C is to approve resignations, retirements, and terminations, and those are listed for you.
Do I have a motion to accept these resignations? Moved by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bryant. Mr. Carter, yes. Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item is to approve a reduction in force, and the reduction in force is related to the elimination of our elementary counselors. Some of that shifting, it's based on seniority. So if an elementary counselor, for instance, had more years of experience than a counselor at the junior senior high, they would have the ability to bump that person. So the people listed may not be the people serving in the elementary. Does that, but because of the shifting, 2 positions are being eliminated. And they are listed below.
Do I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bryant. Mr. Carter, yes. Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Okay. The next item is to approve a reinstatement. It may seem odd that we just did a reduction in force on one and one of these people are being brought back. However, on the resignation list, you noticed one of our counselors resigned. So that opened a spot, and anytime someone is on a RIF, then you call them back. So that's why that is listed that way.
Do I have a motion to approve the reinstatement?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Kilgore. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bryant. Mr. Carter, yes. Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item F is to approve classified personnel that are listed below.
Do I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Can I have a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bryant.
Yes.
Mr. Carter, yes. Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item G is to approve the following certified personnel.
motion to approve those hires? Have a second? Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant? Mr. Carter? Yes. Mr. Kilgore?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. Item H is to approve the following transfer.
Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Ms. Bryant, seconded by Ms. Anderson. Can we have a vote? Oh, any discussion? Can we
I will note that this position at the high school is being eliminated. There was need for extra support in the treasurer's office, and that's why this person was put in the treasurer's office. Their position at the high school will not be replaced.
Okay. Any additional discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant? Mr. Carter? Yes. Mr. Kilgore?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. Item I is to approve 21st Century Grant After-School Program employees to work in that program.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant? Mr. Carter? Yes. Mr. Kilgore?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Item J is the first reading of some recommended bylaw and policy changes. This is part of the process where we go through and we look at our policies with our Neola partners. They were already sent to you. The entire list was sent, so. Yeah, first reading. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Item K is to adopt special education model policy and procedures. And those are listed.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, moved by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Carter. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant? Yes. Mr. Carter, abstain. Mr. Kilgore?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
And I do want to note at our May board meeting, which will be coming up on May 12th at the junior senior high, we will be recognizing at this time 6 retirees from the district. And so I would encourage everyone to come out and celebrate with them. Our culinary program will be making appetizers, and those will be available starting at 5:15, going until our meeting, which will start officially for everyone at 6 o'clock. And as a reminder, we do have a public hearing at that meeting at 5:30 on the rehiring of Lavonda Corner for her position. So you guys will need to get your appetizers quickly so that you can go into the public session, and then our meeting will start at 6 o'clock. We're excited about celebrating the retirement with those staff, and so I would encourage everyone to please join us.
All right. Thank you. Item 7, open discussion by the board. Anybody have anything? Graduation 6:30. Okay. 7. Okay, thank you. Okay, The next Board of Education meeting is May 12th at the Junior Senior High School Auditorium. Make a note of that, not here. I will be missing that meeting, unfortunately. And do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Ms. Bryant. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'm just gonna say, all in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 8:41.